I entitled this a sermon, Progression Through Regression. And the passage that we'll look at is John chapter 5, verses 1 through 14. If you've grown up in the church at all, it'll be a story that's fairly familiar to you once we get to it. And as I just came to prepare for today, I just recognized and realized that in our lives, there's just a lot of times where progression sometimes requires a bit of a step backwards or some regression. And I thought of illustrating it in this way. So this is a flip phone, right? You may remember those. They were kind of once upon a time, around at the same time as the iPhone. And texting came around while they were still fairly prominent. And if you can remember back to that, or maybe this is new for some of you, I'm dating myself in terms of flip phone technology. To text on this thing was crazy. And that's the number pad there, right? And you know that there's usually 3 letters to upwards of 4 letters. And if you want to get to the C, you have to hit the number 2 3 times. And so you would have to henpeck like crazy. And so I remember one of the pastors, while I was on staff at the time, opening this flip phone and trying to text someone else in the city. And I'm just sitting there, and it's painful, and I'm laughing at him. I'm just like, man, just get me a rock and a chisel, and I'll Fred Flintstone it, and I'll walk it over to her, and I'll hand her the message quicker than you'll be able to text it to her. It was new technology, and we were fumbling around, and it was like, this is ridiculous. What's with this texting thing? Well, now, can we live without that? Texting is so proficient, quick. You can even just hit a button, use a microphone, don't even have to type anymore if you chose not to. It's improved, right? But it took a while. And it was a bit of a learning curve, and you had to stumble through it, and it seemed like we were going backwards a little bit. And it's just like, just dial a number already. Just phone them instead. But now people text way more than they phone. And so, it's just something or an example where, it seemed like there's a bit of a regression or that things weren't moving forward, but then you just stick with it for a little while, and all of a sudden it's like something you can't live without. So that's an example of maybe some progression through regression. Whoops, jumped ahead a few here. Here we go. So probably jumped ahead a little in my mind as well as I was talking to you. Sometimes progression comes through regression, and so we're regressing right along. Setbacks can often really move us forward. And so with that in mind, I want to just bow before we look into that passage that we'll dive into this morning and offer this time to the Lord. So Father, I just pray that today will be a day where you really do move us forward. Personally, as we're bowed before you, just recognizing that you desire that for us. The work is not completed yet. You've begun it, and you are faithful to see it through. And it'll be a good thing, and already is. And Lord, we're humbled by that. We come before you knowing that life with you is significantly better than life on our own. And so we thank you for the work that you're doing in us. And so continue that here this morning, Lord, as we offer ourselves to you and present our hearts to you. And I ask this on our behalf in your name. Amen. So this is kind of, there we go. Thank you. Progressing right along. I think I can see that from here. So John chapter 5, verse 1 through 14. Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethesda, with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. And then some manuscripts just add this extra little detail of an angel stirring up the water, so I'll read that here as well. Waiting for a certain movement of the water, for an angel of the Lord came from time to time and stirred up the water. And the first person to step in after the water was stirred was healed of whatever disease he had. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. So that's a long time. And even just speaking personally, for those of us as guys who have what our wives famously call a man cold, it's frustrating if that lasts for more than 3 days, right? 38 years is a long time to be sick. with significantly something deeper and heavier than a cold. So this guy's been through a bit. When Jesus saw him, he knew this. Like, he knew he had been ill for a long time. And he asked him, would you like to get well? And I just want to pause here and just notice something. Like, when we read this and we read the story, and particularly if it's familiar to us, like, it's easy for us just to glance over the response of this lame man. He doesn't know Jesus. Jesus knows him, knows that he's been sick for a while, and it's a fairly rhetorical question, is it not? This guy's been sick for 38 years. He's lame. He wants to be well. But he doesn't look at Jesus. He doesn't get upset or angry or say, are you kidding me? Like, he's not looking at him saying, like, why would you even ask such a silly question, right? Like, that's not his posture, which is actually quite beautiful. And so that's something I think that can be lost on us from time to time. The other thing that I notice is that he doesn't answer Jesus by saying yes, right? Because, there again, pretty obvious answer to a pretty obvious question. He just jumps into right away explaining why the answer seems to be no. So would you like to be healed? Would you like to get well? He just starts telling his story as to why he can't, right? Verse 7, I can't, sir, the sick man said, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me. I'm regressing, right? Someone else is always progressing in the water before me. It's been 38 years. I'm trying. I'm here every day. Nowhere else to get to, but I can't. And Jesus told him, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. Instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath. So the Jewish leaders objected. They said to the man who was cured, you can't work on the Sabbath. The law doesn't allow you to carry that sleeping mat. But he replied, the man who healed me told me, pick up your mat and walk. Who said such a thing as that? They demanded. And the man didn't know, for Jesus had disappeared into the crowd. But afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and told him, now you are well, so stop sinning, or something even worse may happen to you. So how do you and I define progress this morning? I thought of it even, again, in the context of just where I'm at personally. Many of you probably are aware or know that I'm on a cancer journey, and I've been on that journey now for 6 years as of July, which is crazy. I didn't foresee that when I was told that I was diagnosed with stage 4. And so with that, it's been 6 years of chemo. And so that's taken its toll, and so my mobility is pretty bad. That's just, I won't go into a lot of detail, but that's just kind of a journey I've been on and can relate to a lot of this with the lame man. And I thought of it even in the context of walking, right? Something that's really simple. We don't really think about it until we can't, okay? And I think that's something that, again, we take for granted. There's so much in life. I'm speaking for myself personally. It's easy just to take life for granted and the things that we do from day to day and not give it any thought. Inhaling and exhaling air is absolutely incredible, right? And we don't give that any thought at all. Walking, again, that's just something we do. So I think of it now, and actually what's interesting is I probably even still get caught up in just thinking that walking is a regular thing. And I just need to remind myself that there's such a thing as miracle walking. Realizing that each step that I take today is miraculous. That is a gift from God for me to be able to move from point A to point B. So that's physically speaking. There's also a spiritual dynamic to that. And here again, even for us as followers of Christ, it's easy to get caught up in the regular walking, the physical, just the worldly walking, as it were. And we need the reminder of that spiritual element of walking. Secular walking, just day to day, versus our spiritual walk, and just assessing that. It's very easy to get caught up in our day and just go about our day. And so just to remind ourselves here this morning, again, of just having some intentionality in our spiritual journeys in a world that really doesn't make a whole lot of room for that. So that's a little bit of my cancer journey. I recognize I'm not the only one. I won't give you a 6-year update. But if I were to kind of talk about just and capture what my struggle is personally with cancer, it's been this. I know that God can heal me, and if he chose to do so, he could and is totally able to do that. And so I've just come before Lord. I ask for that every day. But my struggle is kind of like, okay, I'm not sure I have enough faith. So God, what's really cool is you cover that off for me. If I'm not cancer-free, that's fine. If I don't have enough faith, that's okay too, God, because, help me in my unbelief. And so it's awesome. So that struggle is one that I'm easily able to lay down just because I know that God can do it in spite of me. Mustard seed faith, he can make some amazing things happen with that. That's enough for him. He's God-sized, and he's got me looked after. So the joys, there's a few things I wanted to highlight here this morning, and it ties in again to this passage we've just read. I've had a chance to have God on display, and just a chance to witness to a lot of people. And again, I won't go into all the stories of that. You can catch me in the foyer if you want, but there's just been really neat opportunities that wouldn't have presented themselves as naturally without this weakness of my physical condition. And so that's been a beautiful thing, just to have people comment on what they see in me, and I just am quick to share with them, well, that's God. And we have great discussions. The second thing that's brought me a lot of joy, and so again, other people, but even more specifically, neighbors ministering to me. Like I knew that I could minister to them, but I was surprised at how they'd minister to me. And you're probably similar to me. Like you see your neighbors, you're nice to them, they're nice to you. You wave when you're cutting the lawn, or you kind of do a quicker wave when you're shoveling your driveway in the winter. But just to stand, on the corner of a driveway and have your neighbor, as a guy, tear up and say that he loves you. That's something that should even be more of a common practice for us as fellow brothers in Christ, and that's still kind of weird for us guys, and or just not as common, right? And so again, just really taken aback by that, by kind of a quote unquote rougher neighbor, and that's a beautiful thing, and we're able to just express how we actually feel about each other. And the point I wanted to make here is this, that I think that, well, I know this, I was surprised by how much of an impact I had made in the lives of my neighbors. I knew I had, but this had given them an opportunity or an excuse to respond in a way that reciprocated that, or showed me that God had been doing some pretty cool stuff. And so I want to just share that with you, just to encourage you in the same way. You're making more of an impact than you realize, because it's not natural for our neighbors to say, hey, I love you, I think you're amazing, unless you have stage 4 cancer, or something else, some other traumatic event happens in your life. But just know that. So that was just a really encouraging thing, and I want you to be encouraged by that too. They see something different, they see Jesus in you, and they love you. We get it maybe a little bit more surface level when we deepen relationships with non-Christians, and when you talk to people and they find out what that you follow the Lord. I was going to say what you do, but maybe not all of you are in that category. Like for me, when I say I'm a pastor or I do this job, that's a more natural springboard for us to get to it a lot more quickly, that I follow God. So as a sign of respect, I find that non-Christians, they want to relate to you, right? So that's a common thing. And then they maybe even put out feelers. They talk about, oh yeah, that's really neat. I like to do good things too, or help or serve the community, and I'm involved in this, or they give you a bit of a background. Oh yeah, that's neat. Well, my mom or dad or my grandparents, they are this or that background, spiritually speaking, and they talk about that. Or I used to go to Sunday school, or they want to relate. They maybe share that they feel that fairly good people. They're better than others. That can come up. And so that's fine. Like, they want to connect with us and relate to us. But if it ever comes to that next layer and the most important one in terms of lordship, that's where the breakdown is, right? And so that's the challenge for you and I as we're ministering to our neighbors in return. Just having them say, well, okay, yeah, that's nice and that's great and that's good, but where are you actually at with Jesus? Like, do you know that you and him can become the closest of friends? But that requires you to surrender everything to him, right? So it's usually not your first conversation with your neighbor unless God really opens some doors. But that's kind of a progression that we all desire deeply for unsaved friends and family, for that matter. Another joy has been this. I know that when we get to heaven, God's just going to say to me, Mark, you did way better than you should have. And that's because of so-and-so and so-and-so and this church and that church and these people. And I get told from other people that I don't know who are praying for me. And I've just, and you've heard that if you've been in foyer conversations ever. I'll pray for you. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your prayers. Yeah, God really ministered to me. Thank you for your prayers. I felt that. And you hear that phrase, and you're not dismissive of it, or you're not saying, yeah, right. Like, you believe that genuinely. But for me, I'm hearing that differently now because I've experienced that, where it's like I understand when they're saying, yeah, I feel your prayers. Like, I feel that. And yeah, God's been really, really good. And so I'm grateful. I just know that we're going to get into heaven and have a good laugh with God and say, wow, like, I did like way better than I should have. I'm feeling that now. So thank you for those of you who have and are praying. God is ministering, and that expression of love to me and Angie and our family means more than I can fully articulate. So God bless you for that. Today is a Sunday morning, and we might have just come to church today saying, oh, okay, it's a Sunday, this is what I do. And kind of along the same thread, or we can have mundane walking or miracle walking. We can, just walk through life, or we can spiritually walk through life. We can also attend church and just have it be kind of a regular thing. It's just kind of what we do. And it's not intentional, and we're not glib about it, or we're not lesser than Christian-wise. But again, just the encouragement for you and for me today is the challenge just to look at this Sunday, like this specific one in August of 2026. I think it's the 16th. I don't even know that, right? So it's just it's just another day in our week. And yeah, it's set aside and it's the Lord's day. And so we honor him today, and we have and we will continue to. But just to come into this room today and just in full anticipation of this being a miracle Sunday. It's not just a regular Sunday or another Sunday at church. Today is a Sunday where God can really meet us if we really meet with him. And so I'm opening my heart to that even now as I'm saying these words to you. And it's just like, God, make today just a really special one. Where I leave here, I go into the parking lot, and I head for home, and I'm like, man, I am a better person. I'm closer to God because of the time I spent here right now in this very moment. I want to give you a quick story, too. This one's going back about 5 years. Calvary is my home church in Edmonton, and I'll tell you something, and they know this. I've told them this, so I'm not talking out of school. We have sharing times at Calvary, not all the time. I want to just quickly say thankfully, and I'll explain that in a moment. That's just not my wheelhouse. I'm not super comfortable saying, in the middle of a service, okay, we've preached for a while. Now gather together in groups of 3 or so with those who are seated around you, and let's discuss these questions. Some people love that, and that's great. Like, that's their wiring. That's not my wiring. I don't like that. But we do that. We have sharing times from time to time. And so we were doing that. And Angie and I were together, and as it turns out, we were with two other couples, both of which were new to Calvary. So they didn't know us, and we didn't know them. And so I can't remember what the questions were, but I remember the question that God laid on my heart that morning. And it's his first one. And God just said to me, okay, Mark, as you evaluate your relationship with me right now, just quick pop quiz. Would you rather have your relationship with me that we had before you had cancer? Or would you rather have your relationship that we're sharing now as you have cancer? And it was almost like an audible question. And so I'm sharing that with these two other stranger couples. Again, with something that's not super comfortable for me, particularly with strangers. I'm sharing pretty vulnerably. Hey, I just heard this from God, and here's my answer. And I'm telling them I'd choose the cancer. And that was fresh for Andrea. She looked at me really strangely because I just had that discussion with God live. So she's hearing it new for the first time along with these strangers. And I guess with that, where I'm going is just sometimes in church we'll do some things or be called to some things, or we're singing some songs and maybe a song in the worship set that we don't like, or Pastor Barry maybe says something that you don't connect with as naturally, or but just to stretch ourselves or just to make ourselves available again, just open up. There's just such a propensity in our humanness just to say, hey, what can I get today? How can I consume? And just to come with a posture before the Lord and say, God, what do you have for me, and what do I have to sacrifice today? What are you asking of me? It might even be something that's uncomfortable, circling up and talking to people I don't know really well. So my relationship with God's been decent. I became a Christian at the age of 5, and it's been an uphill trajectory. I don't say that to say I've been perfect. I'm not. I'm a human being. I sin. But my relationship with God's always been good. So I had a good relationship with God 6 years ago, really good. But it is deeper now. And that is nothing to do with me, other than just my circumstances just made me experience him more deeply. So when I hear of the verse, a peace that passes understanding, yeah, I know that verse. I always have. I believe in it. But I'm experiencing that. I shouldn't have the peace I do when a CT scan comes back and there's been cancer growth. And that was kind of 6 months in. And I'm walking to my car, and I started laughing to myself. I'm like, God, this is crazy. I feel really at peace right now, and I should be curled up on the floor, in the hallway here crying. And I was feeling great. I'm good. And next scan came back, and everything was back to normal. Cancer was at bay. And so he's in charge of it. He knows how many days you and I have. So nothing changes. The only thing that's changed now is I have cancer. That's it. So it's just nothing else has changed. I roll out of bed, and today's the day to honor Jesus. That's it. So that hasn't changed at all. Yeah, the only difference is I have cancer now. So also in our sharing time, we just prayed for non-Christians or our neighbors, and through that as well, God just prompted that I go home that day and I just text all of our neighbors, coming full circle back to texting, and just say, hey, we were in church today, and God just impressed upon my heart to pray for you, and if you ever have any requests, I'd be happy to pray for you. And they responded to that and shared some really deep stuff. And so I ended up seeing some answers to some of those prayers as they just said, thanks for that. And yeah, actually, if you could pray for this. So that God used that as well. And again, not really normal for neighbors on a Sunday afternoon to receive that text from me and say, hey, I'm praying for you. Have you got any requests? They don't they don't get that, right? Like you and I do. So that was a powerful time for me in my journey by stepping into something that wasn't super comfortable. I think I could just have the slide advanced again. And, there we go. Just as we're closing up, I'll just say this to capture it a little bit. I wish you could experience what I've been experiencing these last 6 years, minus the cancer part. That it's been great. I'm thankful to God. It's been a great 6 years, and I wouldn't change a thing. So I pray that for you and all of our churches, that you find a deepness and a richness with the Lord, and you experience Him even more today. Sorry. There we go. Psalm 90, verse 12, again, I touched on this already somewhat to teach us. God, do this, please, for all of us here today in the room. Teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. And so as we close, just 3 things to consider. Is life currently normal or good? Don't be complacent in that. Don't be caught in mundane walking. Kick into miracle walking. See every Sunday is really special and significant, like that this is a gift. To be here today and connect with God is miraculous. It's not a regular Sunday. Just really take this in. Our spiritual walk. Don't just kind of coast through this life. Like, live each day with a lot of purpose. Look to live miraculously. Maybe you're here today, and life is currently horrific or bad, and you would exchange it for mundane in a heartbeat. Like, you wish your life was boring or mundane. You'd see it as a significant upgrade. Miraculous is still an option. And if you're here today and life is hard, God can be with you, and He can ask you this question: Do you want to get well? And He knows the answer is yes, just as much as you know the answer is yes. If you're going through a hard thing, I'm no different. I don't want to go through a hard thing, right? If I'm going through something hard, it's like, God, please get rid of this. I like comfort. I like good things. Do you want to get well? Yes. And so do what this lame man did. Just pour out your heart to Jesus and just say, God, I can't. And here's why I can't. And then He'll direct you. And He'll set a path that just shows you a way to pick up a mat and walk. And He loves you that much and cares enough to just show you practically how to do that when you can't. You don't know how. And He'll be there for you, and He'll make that happen. Here's the final thing I want to say, because we're in one of 2 categories today. Either life is really great, or it's bad, or somewhere in between. But regardless of where we are today, it's just life. And this verse 14 is the most significant one, as Jesus closed out this passage with these words. Jesus found that lame man again in the temple and told him, "Now you're well, so stop sinning, or something even worse may happen to you." Right? And so this life, it's just life. It's temporal. It will end. And if we're not right with God, there's something that's actually significant that can't be fixed after we die, right? It's appointed to us once, and then it's the judgment. And we'll stand before the Lord, and what we do and decide to do with God today, that's kind of, we've given God our answer, and we stand before Him, and He says, okay, I'll honor that. And so he implores us, hey, if life's good or bad, it doesn't really matter. Like, what matters more is where you're at with me. And so maybe here this morning, you just need a reminder of that, or you need to hear those words again from God, or maybe you're hearing that for the first time, and if that's a new concept to you, chase down someone who knows Jesus or who you came with. Ask them more, because that really is the most important thing. So yeah, life is awesome. It's great. Highly recommended. But it will end. and it is but a vapor and just withering grass, and it will go away really quickly. But eternity is forever. It's for a really long time. And being with God is the better option there. So God bless you. Bow with me in a word of prayer. Father, I want to thank you for your love for us, for the fact that you care enough to chase us down and ask if we want to get well, and then you provide a way. And so, God, I thank you for how you've done that for me personally and for all of us in the room who have come to know you. Lord, if there's anyone here who hasn't wrestled with that and given you lordship yet, maybe today's a really good day for them to make this a miracle Sunday. And so, Father, just go with us wherever we're at spiritually. Just help us to see you in everything that we do. And so we offer ourselves to that and pray this all in your name. Amen.